This has been one of the craziest NFL seasons of all time, and Week 14 was no exception. As the season draws to a close, these teams are going to be either trying to make a push for the playoffs, or you're going to have coaches and players just trying to keep their jobs. So I decided I'm going to go through and grade every single team's Week 14 performance. You can think of it kind of like a recap of sorts. So to get us started, we've obviously got a category that needs to be addressed first. Bye/Monday Night Football. These teams didn't play this week or haven't played yet. I can't grade someone who hasn't played yet, so teams like Arizona, Washington, Tennessee, Green Bay, New York, and Miami, they're not going to get a grade. Sorry, guys. As for the rest of the tiers, we've got teams that proved they could be contenders. Some teams exceeded expectations, some let us down, some teams really just showed up and played football, and then there were teams that were just absolute garbage. Now, if you missed my recap of Patriots Steelers, you should go back and check it out. But I think it's fair to say that the Patriots exceeded expectations this week. I'm not really sure where they pulled this idea of playing football out of, since they haven't been doing it all year, but they came and showed up against the Steelers in Acrisure and proved they are still capable of winning games. Bill Belichick should still be a head coach in the NFL, which I know some people didn't think he should. I guess since they didn't lose any draft position, I'm okay with this. But as for the Steelers, and Steelers fans I know are not okay with this play, I think we have to put them in the letdown. Actually, I think we're going to throw them in the garbage on fire, because I don't know how they lose to two 10-loss teams in a row. This is almost inexcusable from a team we thought was going to be making a playoff push and potentially going to win a wild card game. They really need to turn things around if they want to make that postseason push, because I know people are already calling for Mike Tomlin's job, and I subscribe to the idea that he's one of the greatest coaches of all time, which really just shows you how much disarray Pittsburgh is in. Now for Sunday's games, let's dive into Texans-Jets. Jets put Zach Wilson back at the quarterback position after a little bit of reluctancy, which can you really blame him? And they ended up pulling out a win 30-6. Now for the Texans, Tank Dell out for the year, Nico Collins out, and Dalton Schultz did not play. So on the offensive side of the ball, missing a few key components in what was not great conditions for an NFL game. I think I'm going to put them in the letdown category. We've seen the last few weeks that they're capable of playing high-level football. So after a loss to the Jets, and in the fashion that it did, I think you have to say, yeah, they let us down a little bit. Now the Jets, they exceeded expectations, not because they beat the Texans, but because they were able to score 30 points, and with Zach Wilson playing quarterback. So shout out Jets. Not gonna make the playoffs. This hurts your draft stock. Wasn't a really strategic win, but they exceeded expectations. Next, we've got the game of the week, what ended up being actually a really good game. Baltimore LA Rams. Baltimore ended up winning this one on a walk-off punt return touchdown. So they did score 31 points before this as well. So the offense was clicking on all cylinders. Their defense, however, was lackluster at best. So I'm going to put them in the played football category. They kind of just went out there and did what they had to do against the Rams team that, yes, is a very good team, but for the Ravens to exceed expectations, I think they would have had to have a stronger defensive showing. With that being said, I think the Rams therefore exceeded expectations. Personally, I did not expect them to be in this game at all. And I think what we saw there is there's a possibility LA makes a push for the playoffs. Next up, we had Saints versus Panthers, and this game was just, I mean, it's as NFC South as it gets. The Panthers, I'm just going to put them right in the garbage on fire. They've been like this all year. As for the Saints, they pulled out a win against the Panthers. I mean, only one team has failed to do that this year. I'm going to throw them in the played football category. Actually, let's put them in the letdown category. And honestly, I want to put the Falcons and the Buccaneers both in that category. I mean, you guys know how I feel about the NFC South at this point, but one team did win the game. Tampa Bay ended up winning it 29-25 on a go-ahead touchdown. But yeah, did not look pretty. Falcons actually drove the field in 30 seconds and only got to the 2. Got close, but Hail Mary came up a little bit short. So I guess I have to say that the Buccaneers played football. Falcons, that's a letdown. That whole division, 3 teams tied at 6-7. I mean, we're looking at a first round exit for sure. Now, Colts Bengals. Okay. Cincinnati won this game 34-14, which I was really surprised that they took control in the way they did. Jake Browning has showed up for the Bengals and honestly is making Joe Burrow's position maybe look like it's not as much Joe Burrow as it is the system or the talent around him. Regardless, the Bengals got it done and they're keeping their foot in the AFC playoff race. So I'm going to say they exceeded expectations, and this is probably the last week of saying this, but it's really because Joe Burrow going down I thought would completely take the team with him, and they've stayed afloat. The Colts, they also, I mean, they played football. Jonathan Taylor was hurt. You're playing an NFL team, you know, anything can happen. I think they probably could be in the letdown category because I was looking for them to make a stronger push for the playoffs, but I think they went out there and played a solid game. Next up, I have Detroit and Chicago. Now, this one's pretty easy, right? Chicago goes and exceeded, and Detroit goes in the letdown category. but why? Chicago looked like they were firing on all cylinders. It looked like DJ Moore is that wide receiver they've been looking for, and Justin Fields, maybe they build around him this offseason instead of trading him away and taking one of these top quarterback prospects. They held that high-powered Detroit Lions offense to only 13 and put up 28 of their own. Honestly, the Bears did more of what we thought the Lions were going to do, and the Lions looked more like the Bears. I think we need to put some serious question marks on Detroit going into this postseason. Yeah, sure, they'll probably win the NFC North, but they're not going to get a first-round bye, and might actually be a first round exit, at least if they keep playing like this. Now, showdown in the NFC West, we have Seattle versus San Francisco, and Seattle honestly exceeded expectations considering what they were working with. Drew Lock came out and played great football for the Seahawks. I thought he kept them in it as much as he could, but when you're going up against a team like the 49ers, there's just no way you're going to keep them under wraps for that long. Other than that 3-game skid, I think it's clear San Francisco has proved they're a contender, and we'll get to it in a moment, but it's looking like they're going to be the 1 seed, so they're going to get that bye. They have all the weapons, and Brock Purdy is looking like he could be an MVP candidate. I want to hear you guys sound off below. Do you think it should be Brock Purdy, or should it be a Christian McCaffrey, a Debo? Do you think Brock Purdy's that system quarterback, or is he doing a little bit more? But regardless, I don't think you could put San Francisco anywhere else, and I think all things considered, Seattle played relatively well. I think they should be looking forward to the offseason. Once they get a few key components, they definitely can make a push next year. All right, now we have Vikings Raiders, and I've done this once before on the channel, and I'm going to have to do it again. They're going to get their own category because I don't know what happened in that game. Vikings ended up winning it 3-0. They scored with like 2 minutes left in the whole game. Josh Dobbs got sat. I don't know what to make of either of these teams. However, for this week, if I were to put them anywhere, it would be in the played football, I guess, or letdown. Just because the game in and of itself was like, I guess you enjoyed it if you liked watching the 1980 Bears, but that would be probably about it. All right, only a few games to go. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the actual like button to let me know, and comment down below what you thought of your team's performance. Did I put them in the right tier? Now, speaking of you guys commenting, I'm sure Chargers fans will have a lot to say. A lot of Saints fans were telling me Dennis Allen has the hottest seat in the NFL right now. I think it's Staley by far. I don't even know if it's a seat anymore. It's just a glob of lava or something. They're going in the garbage on fire category. I was thinking letdown, but they are just they're wasting so much talent. I just don't know. On paper, they're a Super Bowl contender, and they just never show up any given week. But as for the Broncos, I think we could put them in the exceeding expectations for the last 6 weeks, really. 5 of their last 6 have been wins. They're only a game back from the Chiefs after their loss to the Bills, and they look like they're ready for the playoffs. So shout out Broncos, because can't say I saw this coming after they got their doors blown in by Miami. Jacksonville versus the Browns was kind of a fun game, as Cleveland won at 31-27, and their quarterback was none other than Joe Flacco. Having grown up in the 2010s, it's weird to see Joe Flacco wearing a Browns jersey, but man, he slung that rock. They exceeded my expectations. Honestly, I think the Jags putting up 27 earns a played football spot, but their defense looked really bad. They're a game up in the AFC South, and yes, they can definitely take that title and go into the playoffs, but if they want anything better than a first-round exit, they really need to tune up that defense. Now, the game that had everyone holding their breath, everyone grabbing snacks, getting a nice comfy seat, Chiefs, Bills in Arrowhead, and honestly, it really lived up to the hype. Bills end up coming away 20-17. I'll never say a game was decided by one play, but obviously one play stands out in particular. Kadarius Toney being offsides. Patrick Mahomes wasn't happy. Andy Reid wasn't happy. Josh Allen had to hear about it in the post-game dap-up between the quarterbacks. Chiefs fans, I want to know how you feel about this one. But as for the game itself, Buffalo, they played football. They are a team that we thought was going to be Super Bowl contenders at this point in the year. You could almost say they exceeded expectations because the last 7 weeks, they've been absolutely trash in comparison to what we expected. But I think they just went out and played football. And the Chiefs, if I could separate quarterback from receiver, they would be in 2 different categories, but they're a letdown right now. They're having way too many mistakes from these receivers. They're essentially losing them games. What would the Chiefs' record be if Kadarius Toney wasn't on the team? 10 wins, 11 wins? Regardless, must-win game for Buffalo. They go out and get it. They're going to have to win out to have a chance. I don't know exactly what's going to happen between the teams around them and such, but they do have a tough schedule. Kansas City, only a game ahead of the Broncos at this point. I think a lot of people assume, oh, they're the Chiefs. They're going to get in. Yes, they'll get in probably even at the 5 seed worst case scenario, but they are not guaranteed a division title at this point. I think we need to be keeping an eye on that race, and we need to see if the Chiefs receivers can fix their act. Patrick Mahomes, generational player. But I think what we're seeing is that it is a team sport. And last but not least, Sunday Night Football, Eagles, Cowboys. Okay, Eagles, letdown, all right? And Cowboys, Contenders. Oh, I just realized I don't have an AFC contender. Based on this week's play, I don't think there was a team particularly deserving of that title. But regardless, if I had to pick a team right now to win the Super Bowl, it's definitely between those two, and Dallas made a very strong case, which is surprising because they usually lose in the first round. As for the Eagles, yes, people have pointed out that they've had issues all year long, but it really came through against Dallas. It's a divisional game, so you have to take that into effect. It means more for those Dallas Cowboys players, but the Eagles did not look good in this game. Shout out Brandon Aubrey as well, because that was a masterclass. That was awesome. Let me know down below if you think your team is in the right spot. This was a fun week, and I'm excited to see what Monday Night Football brings. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and subscribe so I know you guys enjoy this stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one.